we did a whole series in the podcast on God. And in that, it was a 20-part series. There's a few episodes where we get geeky about
spiritual beings, the sons of God, and the things we're going to talk about in these questions.
So if you want to go deeper, feel free. What's the first question?
Why did God allow the Satan to live in the Garden of Eden, even if it was in rebellion against him?
He could have said, get out. Don't be in the garden.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay.
Yeah, so there's multiple puzzles at work in the snake. One thing to clarify, the snake is not called the Satan in that story.
Right.
That's a title that's going to come to be associated with this arch rebel, spiritual rebel, later on in the Hebrew Bible. So we'll just call it the snake.
Okay.
So there's two options. One is that the snake had its own rebellion, and that story is not narrated in Genesis, but it's presumed, and then you get the backstory later on in the Bible. Another possibility is that Genesis 3 is telling you the rebellion story of the snake and the human simultaneously.
That is his rebellion.
That it's the fall of the snake and the fall of Adam and Eve in the same story. And I actually think that's there's some textual details that point in that direction. For example, the snake is introduced as a beast of the field, and it's arum in Hebrew.
Crafty?
Well, it gets translated crafty, but if you do a word search on arum in the Hebrew Bible, it's like under 10 other occurrences, and it's always a positive trait of being smart and shrewd, is sometimes perceptive.
Yeah. It's not far from the word for wisdom.
Correct. In other words, it's used a lot in the book of Proverbs, and it's a positive trait to be arum.
Yeah.
So the snake is introduced in the first sentence with a positive wisdom trait. It's a perceptive, clever creature. And what's interesting, that's he's said arum mikol habehemot, crafty more than all the beasts of the field. What he ends up is being arur mikol habehemot, cursed more than all the beasts of the field. So within the course of the narrative, he goes from being arum to arur, more than all the beasts. And I think that's the literary design.
It's his Breaking Bad.
Yes, yeah, totally. He's a good creature gone bad.
Yeah.
So this presumes what is the creature. In the video, we draw a whole bunch of design patterns from all over the Hebrew Bible that point in the direction of that snake being a spiritual being in disguise, namely one of the cherubim/seraphim.
Yeah, so if the garden was a place where all of God's creatures lived, where the humans were meant to rule,
correct,
then it wouldn't be strange to have one of the cleverest creatures there. All the creatures are there.
Yeah, the cherubim are there. We meet them at the end of chapter 3.
We know their garden.
So Adam and Eve are hanging out with
creatures.
With heavenly creatures that surround the divine throne.
And earthly creatures.
That's
the picture you get. Heavenly creatures, earthly creatures, overlapping, God's space, our space, together. That's the garden. So from that perspective, God isn't like, I know this guy's trouble, but I'm going to let him in.
Yeah.
It's like, no, he's just part of God's good creation.
Yeah, and so this is key, because sometimes the Satan figure is talked about as if he is essential evil and has always been so.
Okay.
So the story portrays him as a fallen creature, just like the humans are going to be fallen creatures.
Yeah.
He's a rebel, just like human beings are rebels. And so why did God allow the snake in the garden? Well, why did God allow humans in the garden? Because he wants to partner with other creatures to rule heaven and earth together. And we're given a story of a twin rebellion of a spiritual being and a human being.